Thank you. Yeah, I thought I was having a challenge to go last, but to follow that last presentation and go last has given me an even bigger challenge. So that was very inspiring. So yeah, I'm from Liquid Telecom. We're one of the sponsors here and doing the internet. But as Liquid, we have built a large amount of telecommunications infrastructure across all of Africa, and specifically infrastructure for fiber networks and data centers. So we started building fiber, and we've built 50,000 kilometers of fiber now across about 13 countries. So when you are building that much fiber, connecting cities, long distances, you're crossing through a lot of rural areas, a lot of different habitats. We haven't crossed any deserts, I think, but we've crossed, deep forests, national parks, rivers, all sorts of different, areas, farming areas. So the first part of our core mission in terms of sustainable, networks to being built is in minimizing the impacts on the environment and the habitats that you're going through. So that means putting fiber deep under the ground or very high up in the air, and it means using existing infrastructure corridors. So we're using existing roads or existing power lines or railways, things that have already been built. So, as we're building this infrastructure, we're digging alongside a roadway or digging alongside a railway, minimizing the impact of what we do on the environment. When it comes to building data centers as well, we're building them in a green way. Here in Kenya, we have a very privileged situation of having a lot of renewable energy in Kenya. We've minimized the use of the diesel by having solar and by having high grid connections. Bringing down the cost of, or the amount of electricity you use, you consume vast amounts of power in data centers. Bringing that down so we minimize the impact on global warming and the environment. Then, as well, we also have to minimize the effect that the environment has on us. So, we have challenges doing fiber networks over long distances, and farmers are a big problem. They dig and break and damage fibers. We've gone through national parks. So in the national parks, we've had elephants damaging our fiber. So, sometimes we've built to a certain specification, but there's been an elephant crossing. We've had to cover it in concrete. When the first rains come after you build fiber, a wash away happens and erosion is there. So you might have to relocate and replan the way you do things as the environment changes. And that's all part of maintenance of a fiber network across such a vast territory. But then with that comes the impact you're having on rural environments with bringing this connectivity and bringing this new infrastructure. And up there, there's a very old logo up here of what we used to have, which is Liquid Telecom. It's sort of there in the middle of the page. And when we first started building fiber across Africa, we had this logo where we had a drip underneath the letter Q. It's a drip of water because we were Liquid Telecom. And as we went out in our vehicles digging fiber across rural areas, connecting cities, people would come running from the villages and saying, "Are you bringing water? Are you bringing water?" Because we were digging trenches and putting pipes into the ground, so they thought we were bringing water. Unfortunately, we disappointed them by telling them we were bringing fiber connectivity. But you got to bear in mind as well, these are areas that are on roadways, so they already have a transport system. They probably have electricity. They didn't have fiber networks, but they would have had some mobile connectivity. But water was the one thing that they didn't have available from the tap and as a running water service. But I think the effect of communication coming to rural areas and to agricultural areas is quite well documented. First with voice communications, and now with mobile data on the mobile networks, and the fiber networks, and the purpose of the fiber networks and how they give connectivity in the rural area is to connect up from the roadways to the communications towers, enabling then that you can have high-speed internet, as well as the voice services were there before running with wireless networks. But by going to the communications towers and the high sites, you can extend the networks using wireless communications into rural areas. So that is bringing the connectivity. We've also then connected up a lot of research organizations and name quite a lot of the agencies here in Kenya, but there's so many that we've connected up and doing their research using the fiber connectivity and needing that broadband in rural areas. But I want to check everybody is still awake here. So who knows what is the Internet of Things? Put your hand up. Not so many. And how many people have seen an Internet of Things device today, an IoT or Internet of Things device? So nobody. Well, if you've seen one of these in your pocket, or if you've seen a CCTV camera or something, then you've seen an IoT device. And Internet of Things is really about using the internet and connectivity to connect the physical world with data centers and collecting data from the physical world, having the world tell us about what's going on. So in this phone, there are lots of sensors. You can count your steps. There's a GPS tracker. This transmits over the internet all this data. And you also, using sensors, whether it be on an animal or in the environment. I've got a couple of pictures there. One is an air quality monitoring sensor we're working with in Nairobi, a company called Code for Africa, are mapping out air quality and pollution data in Nairobi using the networks. And there's a picture of a connected cow. So cows can't talk, but using the IoT, they can tell us if they're healthy, if they're moving, if they've got a high temperature. So there's ways you can communicate. So animals and physical world can tell us about what the status is using IoT. So I've been around today and been talking to a lot of people doing research and hearing about data collection and even hearing about long delays in data being collected and published and collated. And the IoT really enables data to come much faster. So a forest can tell you when it's on fire straight away. A forest can tell you when it's being destroyed straight away. The land will talk to us using this technology. By having sensors in rural areas that transmit over networks, that then pushes the data into cloud computing, which is all enabled by this fiber and data centers that we're talking about. That enables the data to be processed much, much faster and to be delivered, whether they be to researchers or be delivered to an app, which a farmer or a ranger or somebody in a rural environment is working and having an app on their phone. This infrastructure is enabling much faster collection of data and processing of data for research and benefit to rural environments. And I think I really want to. I don't want to keep anybody from their drinks and dinner. I'll end on that. And thank you very much.